Hey everybody, it's Ted Prodromo and welcome. It's my 12th LinkedIn Live. I'm so excited. I've been just kind of playing around with it, having fun with it. I don't really have my strategy down yet, but I'm just having fun. So I'm inviting a lot of my friends to come join us on these calls. And a long time ago, we won't mention how many years ago, I met Joanne Black at a local networking event, Bay Area Consultants Network. And we've known each other ever since. We're still doing what we did that long ago, 20 years ago. So Joanne, welcome.
It's always great. And I'm so glad we reconnected, Ted. It's just been way too long. We're not going to let that happen.
Yeah. So you were going to tell me a story about how you started your business.
Many people ask me that. And like most things in life, it was nothing I planned. I was working for a consulting firm and it was 1996. And everybody said, Joanne, you should go start your own business. Economy is great. And well, I did, but I didn't start it saying, well, I was going to focus on referral selling. I thought I was actually going to work with small companies on crafting a sales plan in their business plan, because in those days, sales plan was pretty non-existent. And I was working with a small management team at an outplacement firm. Serendipitously, at the same time I was working with them on their sales strategy, they were doing a customer satisfaction survey of 50 of their best clients. And in those days, it was fax back, I don't know, 3 or 4 rounds. And on the last round, I added a question. To this day, I have no recollection why, but here was the question. Would you be willing to be a referral to this client? It was a 7-point scale, 7 was high. It came back 6.5. So my next meeting with my client, I said, look, 50 of your best clients are saying they're glad to give you a referral. Are you asking? And there was basically silence in the room. They weren't. So I started to think about, in my sales career, my best business had come from referrals. I did what I call my feet on the street research, Ted. I talked to salespeople and sales execs I knew, and I said, do you like to get referrals? And why? Well, it seems like a dumb question, but I had to have them tell me that. So they gave me this whole list, which is the same today. And then I said, do you have a referral system, a methodology, with a strategy, with metrics, with skills and accountability? And they kind of looked at me, no. Until I'm a really logical person. On the one hand, you're telling me it's the best business, and the other, yeah, it happens, but it's not the way you work. And so what I did is I developed a very straightforward system to close that gap. Now, that was 1996. When I asked that same question today, what do you think the answer is?
Same.
Yes, it's no.
Yeah.
So you'd think in 25 years it might have changed, but the awareness has shifted.
Yeah.
But the system, the methodology, the skills, the accountability, it's just not happening routinely. And it's still, obviously we get referrals from time to time. Client will call us in and ask us to do more work, or they'll tell somebody else to call us. So I call those inbound referrals.
Mm-hmm.
What's not happening is outbound.
Right. It's funny you mentioned that question because I got a little yellow sticky here on my computer. And it says, is there anyone else you know that could use my help? And I never asked that question because it's right in front of me.
So I'm going to give you everybody another way to ask that question. Because what most people say is there anyone else you know? Or is there anyone else who could benefit from my services? They put that in there. Everybody says that. And guess you can get an answer of no. So mm-hmm. I don't like to ask questions where I could get a no answer, unless that's really what I want. And sometimes it is what we want. So a better way to ask that question is start with the word who.
Who?
Who? are one or two people you know I should meet? Who are one or two people you know you can introduce me to? But of course, this is after they know what you do and how you can help people and fix their problems.
Right.
But that is the key question.
And when's the best time to ask that question?
Now, there's a difference of opinion on that. There's people who say, you really should ask when you sign on the dotted line. And I think there's great plus to that because they've invested in you and, they know that they made a wise decision. So why wouldn't they?
Mm-hmm.
But other people say, well, no, we really have to wait until we've had some results before we can ask. It really depends on the business. So for me, because I've been referred to everybody, and they know I'm going to ask, is I typically wait until most of the implementation is complete and they've seen results. Yeah. And also we've had that time to build very close relationships. And that's when I do it. But people have a choice. What I want to tell everybody, it depends first on your sales cycle, how long it takes to close, how long it takes to implement. The mistake some people make is they say, oh, no, I can't ask till we implement. No, I really can't ask till we get results. Well, by that time, who knows? It could be 6 months, 8 months, a year, it just depends. And you're way too far away from your buyer at that point. Therefore, you need to ask sooner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a balancing act. I get that.
It is.
Remember LinkedIn endorsements used to be a thing? I'd get invitations to connect and they'd say, can you endorse me for these skills? I'm like, well, I don't even know you. I can't endorse you for that. Maybe right. After I work with people, I'll give them a LinkedIn recommendation. I'll say, it was great working with Joanne on our project. And I explain what it was like to work with you, which is kind of a referral. And then you would get a prompt to give me a recommendation back.
Yes, that happens. And I want to, for everybody to know, there's what I call the 3 R's. There's referrals, references, and recommendations. The thing that people get, mixed up a lot on is the difference between a reference and a referral. Mm-hmm. So reference is obviously when, you're about to close a deal and your prospect wants to talk to some of your clients and really validate their decision. That's a reference. Mm-hmm. Recommendation, to your point, is what we do on LinkedIn. And a referral, very different. You get an introduction to the person you want to meet. Right. That is a referral. We don't just get a name, we get an introduction. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did that this morning on LinkedIn. Somebody said, hey, can you introduce me to Nina because I want to have her on my podcast. So I respect both of them highly. So I introduce them. And sometimes Excellent. If it's marginal, I really don't want to introduce you to that person because they're not really reputable. I don't know.
Well, that's a good point, Ted, because when we refer someone, our reputation is really on the line. Right. We're depending on them to take care of our colleagues, our connections, as we would. And so we're not going to refer anybody unless we trust them to take care and give them the attention they need and tell them the truth. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise it impacts us. And right. That's why referrals are so very, very personal. And so when someone asks on LinkedIn and you don't really know them, of course they're not going to give them a referral. And as long as you spoke about LinkedIn and referrals, I'll give you my point of view, which many people disagree with. But as you know, I have definite points of view. And one of them is never, ever, ever ask for a referral in any digital format. That means LinkedIn, that means email. What you can do is ask if they know the person you want to meet. And if they do, then you need to get on a call, find out as much as you can Because the person who's introducing you has all this intel. You need to find out, how do you know this person? What are their business issues? Why do you think this person wanted to talk to me now? What are the problems they can solve? What's this person like?
Right.
What would they respond best to? I mean, you have all these questions that you can get answered by the person who refers you. And when it's just an email or on LinkedIn, you don't get that.
Yeah, that's a great tip, because you just pick up the phone. Somebody just called me the other day and asked me a question just like that. Hey, can you tell me about so-and-so? I want to do business with them. I know you've worked with them in the past. So that old-fashioned phone call works so well.
Yeah, it works. It definitely works, except it's now probably a cell phone. But that's fine.
Right.
But what happens is everybody's just running at such a quick pace
Yeah.
that this is like saves time, right? All we have to do is ask, and then we don't have to bother about the rest. But as salespeople, we want to know, I guess, unless you're selling something really simple.
Mm-hmm.
But for those of us who sell more complex solutions, we all know there can be one or more buyer, depends on the size of our company, could be 10 plus. And we want to get the background that we won't get anyplace else. We're not going to get on LinkedIn. We're not going to get on their website, because we only put on LinkedIn what we choose to put on LinkedIn.
Right.
Because a lot of people don't know about us.
Yep. Social media. We only see the good side of everybody. So if anyone
That's
has
right.
questions for Joanne, go ahead and put them in the chat too on LinkedIn. I see Judy Baker's here and Vinay is here. So what other tips do you have for referrals? Like, it's changed so much since, like you said, 1996, we'd fax things back and forth. Email was just really getting started.
Oh, that's right. It was. But actually, not much has changed about referrals. The process that I mentioned I developed then is still the same. Now, the implementation, the examples are different.
Mm-hmm.
But people tell me it's like Dale Carnegie. Once you get something solid, it's evergreen. What has changed, in addition to technology, is that I'd say maybe because of technology, those of us who are having conversations are getting in and getting introductions. Technology, we've become so dependent on it. Look, I love it when it works. I do, but we need to use it as a productivity tool. And many times it's not. It is not a replacement for a personal conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we need to do. We need to back off from clicking buttons and actually talk to people.
Right.
And I write a lot about trust. That's everybody talks about trust.
Mm-hmm.
And it is true, unless we trust someone to take care of our connection as we would, we'd never refer them. But trust is at an all-time low for salespeople. And how do you gain trust? You gain trust when you get a referral introduction. So here's an example, Ted. Ted, say you offer to introduce me to someone I want to meet. Let's call her Sue. And we've already had the chat. You know Sue well. You've told me about her. You know how to introduce me. So Sue gets a message from you. It could be an email, a phone call, a video call, and says, I'd like you to meet Joanne Black, and here's why. Well, she trusts you.
Yeah.
The trust Sue has for you transfers to me.
Mm-hmm.
We have a different kind of conversation because I'm always introduced. And I tell you, sometimes we don't even get to a business conversation. We're having a chat and getting to know each other and building a relationship. And that's great, because then we schedule the next call right there and then. But
Right.
we've continued to reinforce and build that trust. And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, I just did a blog post something similar to that a couple of weeks ago. If I talk about myself, it's bragging. If other people talk about me, it's credibility, and it
There you go.
transfers.
It's the transfer of trust.
Yeah. And
I
that's
think I'm going
so
to use
needed
that
these days.
TOT, the transfer of trust.
All right. No, it's so necessary because they say everybody's running around with their hair on fire. They're trying to make decisions based on sound bites. But if you just pick up the phone and call someone and have a 5-minute conversation, it goes so deep.
It does. And this goes back many years, but I remember it was a Friday afternoon, and I had 3 people I hadn't got a response from email. And I picked up the phone and I called. Friday afternoon, I reached all 3. And each one said, Joanne, I'm so glad you called. It's been so busy, whatever they said.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's something else today. You see, we need to communicate the way our clients and our prospects like to communicate. And I'm keeping reminded of this one person because I always forget. Text. That's the only way I reach him to set up anything. And I have a client that way as well. So we have to know the communication channels of our prospects and our clients, even if it's not our favorite.
Right. Yeah, I just was texting, one of my clients texted me yesterday. He had a big breakthrough on our call, and then he texted me to thank me, and then he just called me out of the blue. I didn't schedule this call. I didn't get on your calendar. I just picked up the phone and called you. Is that okay? I said, that's great. I love it.
Yes, for sure. You know, the human voice is very powerful.
Right. We had a very deep conversation, which texting back and forth, it would just be snippets.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Plus, I don't have tiny little fingers, so unless I can talk the text, and then it's always fun to see how that translates. It just takes me more time. So I'd rather have a conversation, but some people don't want to have that.
Right.
And so that's how I modify my behavior.
Yeah. So what other tips do you have about referrals? I love that, just the personal touch. What other tips do we have?
Personal touch, never ask for a referral in any digital format. Always say who or 1 or 2 people you know, but be sure, another tip is be sure to describe not just the person, what makes an ideal prospect for you, but the problem. See, everybody has a problem or a challenge today. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in business. I mean, you wouldn't, Ted, right? Unless people just were pros at using LinkedIn,
Right.
which it changes like hourly, if not more often. And so what's the problem? Because that's what people relate to, is
Right.
the problem. That's why we're in business. If there weren't a problem, we wouldn't be in business.
Right.
And that really taps into people's emotion. They realize you get them, right? You get them. And so that is a tip. When someone says, how can you help me? I've had that happen over the years, not recently.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, well, how can you help me? It's kind of in that tone of voice. And I'll say, I'm not sure I can. I need to talk to you first. And then we have questions, and then the whole demeanor changes.
Yeah.
But see, we can fall into that trap of just going blah, 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 blah about everything we do.
Right.
And I say, no one cares. They only care how we can solve their problem.
And if you can't solve your problem, be upfront and say, hey, I can't help you, but maybe you know someone that can.
That's right. I do that all the time. I mean, I've been referred to people, and I love to be that person to have the conversation and sort out what the real problem is, because we all know it's not always the first thing a prospect will tell us until we ask questions. And I'm very clear about what I do. It's that first slice of the sales process, getting the meeting.
Yeah.
And if it's not that, I have a huge network, and I will make a proper introduction that's going to help that person. That's my pleasure.
Yeah. So Tom says he likes the Marco Polo app. It's video texting. So it's kind of a back and forth between phone call and email. Haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, well, the video thing is really big now, and I'm getting better at it. But what I learned is that what people really want in a video, and probably in anything, is not perfection.
Mm-hmm.
They want us to be authentic in who we are. So I did a recent online event, and I mispronounced a word. I couldn't believe I did that. And I just kind of laughed and said, and then pronounced it correctly and said, okay, I finally got it right, or something like that. But that's being human. And sometimes we think we have to practice and practice and practice. No, we don't. We need to be articulate, but
Yeah.
there's no such thing as perfection. It's
No.
about progress.
So what happens if you give a referral, someone you worked with and you had great experience and it just didn't work out with somebody you referred them to? Like sometimes other people don't get the same response. So how do you, because your reputation's on the line if I refer to you. So do you like go back to
So I
that
haven't had that
person?
happen, Ted. But and maybe the I don't know if this is the difference or not. But when I offer to introduce someone, of course, I always talk to the person first.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say, I'd like you to meet Ted. Here's why. You told me this problem, this problem, this problem. I said, so I'd like you to meet Ted, and whether you decide to work together or not, I know you'll leave with some insights and probably some tips, the things that will help you out. So that's how I position it.
Okay. Yeah. It's not going to work out for everybody, everything. So
Right.
yeah. This is great, Joanne. Any other things you want to share with people? Like I know you have books and your website is nomorecoldcalling.com.
Absolutely. And if people are interested in learning more about referrals, there's a button. I think there's a button on the homepage where you can register for my referral selling insights. So you will get my blogs, and you won't be overwhelmed with me pinging you twice a day, but you will get access to my blogs, and you'll also gain access to the referral selling IQ quiz. So this is 14 yes, no questions. It takes about 3 minutes to complete, if not less, because it's yes, no. See, I don't think there's any maybes in sales. You either do it or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll give you your baseline for referrals and where maybe you're lagging and where you're doing well. And then you can do something about it.
That's great. Well, thank you, Joanne. This has been great. And I personally highly recommend you. I've known you for many, many years, and I know you do great work. Thank you for being here.
It's always a pleasure, Ted. My favorite subject is referrals.
Great. Thanks. We'll talk
Bye.
soon.